Hello and welcome to Boomer and Beyond Wellness. I'm Angela Fischetti, and this one is Uncle Harry, but you've already met him. It's been a while since we've had him on. Time to bring the young man back in. So today's session is part one. This is a non-exercise, a non-stretch session. This is more about information for you. So this is part one of mobility and flexibility of the shoulder joint. And according to ACE, American Council on Exercise, which is one of my certifying governing bodies, their definition of joint mobility is this, and I'm going to literally read it to you. Joint mobility is defined as the degree to which an articulation, this is where two bones meet, can move before being restricted by surrounding tissues, aka the range of uninhibited movement around a joint. Now, our focus here on the shoulder joint, when I say that, because there are several of them, all right? But from the perspective of staying within my scope of work as a trainer and group fitness instructor, as a yoga instructor, and a licensed massage therapist, I'm not a physical therapist. I can certainly talk to you a bit about the joint. So our focus here when we say shoulder joint is the glenohumeral joint. Now, the glenohumeral joint is both a synovial and ball and socket joint. And if you take a look at Uncle Harry here, this is pretty obvious. I'll explain this in a moment. And it is the most mobile joint in the human body. And it does multi-directional movements. So we have the head of the humerus, this is the arm bone, and this is a ball, clearly a ball, right? And it's inserted into the glenoid fossa. Now, what is a fossa? It's an anatomical pit, groove, or depression. And this certainly is right in there. Now, does that look a little familiar? It should, because there's another joint like that you would know about. That's the coxal joint, also known as the acetobulofemoral joint of the hip. Now, I'm going to have Uncle Harry here with my assist show you the different movements of the glenohumeral joint. So we're going to begin with a movement called shoulder abduction, ABD. So what this means is just simply going away from the midline of the body. However, we have to return, right? So on the way back down, it's shoulder abduction. Maybe he needs a little grease in this joint, right? Because this is the joint that oftentimes gets stuck, so to speak, gets tight. And this is why I want to do these part one and part two for you. So we have shoulder abduction. Let's see if that's going to comply, but my arm is going into abduction as well, and shoulder adduction. So abduction, adduction. Come on, work with me, buddy. Now, the next two will be shoulder flexion. So that's bringing the arm forward. It's basically taking the humerus away from the body, going out in front. All right, so we're going out in front, and we can go all the way up here. Now, I want you to see something. It's not this. That's shoulder abduction, right? Flexion is just right on up there, and then we return through shoulder extension. But we can keep traveling with shoulder extension. We bring in the triceps, we bring in a number of other muscles, which is kind of cool because the work is never reductionist, right? The body is all connected. We talk about that all the time. So far we demonstrated shoulder abduction, returning to the midline, shoulder adduction, shoulder flexion, returning to shoulder extension. Now I'm going to pull the man forward here. Now I have a big, thick yoga mat, so he gets a little stuck, so bear with us. All right, so I want to show you shoulder external rotation, which is lateral rotation. You watch his shoulder, watch mine too, all right? So we externally rotate, which is lateral rotation. But then to return, we have to medially rotate, which is internal rotation. External rotation, lateral rotation, medial rotation, internal rotation. So we've covered those two, external and internal. Now I'm going to bring them back a bit because I have a lot of light fixtures here and I don't want either one of us knocking into them. So now we're going to come into what's called horizontal shoulder abduction. So we cross the transverse plane. That's abduction, horizontal adduction, ADD, to return. So this is horizontal abduction, ABD, horizontal adduction, to return. We lower it back down. Now, the final one I want to show you is called shoulder circumduction, and it does all of the movements. Let's see what he allows me to do here with this shoulder today. And if he doesn't allow for it, I'll just show you. So, but you're going to watch me too. So, we go all the way. Wow, thanks, Uncle Harry. You replied on that one. So what does it look like? This and this. And what does it start to look like? Well, maybe a backstroke when you swim. So that is shoulder circumduction. Now, I want to share screen with you for a moment because I want you to see something on a diagram. And we're going to get that out here for you. I'm going to hit share. There it is. Just pop this in. All right, so take a look at the different joints involved here. So it's not just the glenohumeral joint, right? And I just wanted you to see a couple of the other joints. I'm going to show you here on me as I step in. Right here is the clavicle on both sides of the sternum. So in here, where the clavicle meets the sternum, thus sternoclavicular, sternum, clavicular, sternum, clavicle. Right in here, sternoclavicular joint. Now, if I travel laterally, you kind of see this knobby bone here. That's going toward, that is the acromioclavicular joint. But I'm going to bring in Uncle Harry for this one. Get this buddy a little closer so you can see a little better. All right. So here's his clavicle, the collarbone. But I'm going to turn him a bit so you can see more of the red here. That's the acromion. So here's the end of the clavicle meeting the acromion. Thus, acromioclavicular joint. Acromioclavicular joint. I'm going to spin him around and show you here on his scapula. His foot out of the way. So his scapula, his shoulder blade, scapulothoracic. So scapulo, obviously scapula, thoracic. Here it is. That's the thoracic spine below the cervical and above the lumbar. And so this is the rib cage is also referred to as the thorax. So scapulo, I'm going to go to that scapula. Here's the spine of the scapula coming across. And this would be the medial border of the scapula. And that's where we're meeting the ribs, the thorax. So scapulothoracic, these joints here. And then we showed you already that glenohumeral joint, pretty clear on him. Over here, we showed you all the movements. So I did want to give you a nice, good perspective on the different joints involved. Again, these aren't all of them. So now I'm going to stop the screen share. And also just wanted to talk to you for a moment about the different muscles involved. Now, we are specifically referring to the glenohumeral joint because there are way more muscles than what I'm mentioning here that are involved in the shoulder girdle. But for the glenohumeral joint, we have the deltoid, so you can see the shoulder cap here, right? The deltoid muscle. Then we have the pec major. Well, he's great here to show this because all this red that you see here, these are attachments for that pectoralis major. See how it goes in to the costal cartilage, even to the ribs themselves, right? And of course, it would also be the same on the other side. So that's the pec major. Then we have the rotator cuff muscles, 4 muscles, the sits muscles, and they lie deep within the deltoid area, kind of, sort of. We have the supraspinatus, and that bugger really gives us some trouble. The infraspinatus, the teres minor, and we also have the long head of the tricep, and we have also the long head of the bicep muscle, and then deep into that upper arm bone, we have the coracobrachialis. So all these muscles are involved. So thank you so much for hearing me out on this bit of a lesson on anatomy. And please come back for part 2, because that's where we're just going to do some stretches and mobility. And it's just a lovely way for you to loosen all of this up. Listen, tight shoulders often affect the neck. You have issues running down the arm. You might have issues running down your spine. So let's get all of this nice and opened up for you. We'll see you soon on part 2. Thank you so much, Uncle Harry. Nice having you around. Take care, everyone. Bye.